Hello and welcome to How to Survive Healthcare. I am Kayla Thompson-Riviere. I have over a decade of experience as an RN in the ER and ICU. Now I'm helping people as a dedicated advocate.
And I'm Nicole Broadhurst, a healthcare billing specialist and financial advocate, here to make sure you're not paying more than you owe.
We're here to share the insider tips and tricks you need to navigate the healthcare system, avoid common pitfalls, and get the care you deserve.
Because no one should feel lost or overwhelmed when it comes to their health.
Now, it is important to note that the information we share on this podcast is based on our experience and research, but it's not intended to replace professional medical advice. But whether you're a patient or a caregiver, you're in the right place. Hey guys, welcome back. So today, Nicole and I wanted to bring you a topic that's very timely here. It is the beginning of December, and I don't know how you've been feeling, but this is the time we start to see a lot of those kind of cold weather bugs, cough, cold, flu, more COVID, that's a thing now. And I know we used to just say cough, cold, flu, and now we're just going to keep adding on. But I hear all the time that people can't afford to be sick. And I get that. My husband and I, for several years, have both had jobs that don't even have sick time. So any loss of work is a loss of income. So I strongly relate to that. But when I hear that sentiment, it's often not followed by an action plan for what you're doing to avoid and prevent getting sick. So that's really the gap that I wanted to fill here with this episode and talk about why that needs to be on the forefront of your mind for everybody, but particularly if you're in a situation where you really feel like you can't afford to be sick. So illness-related loss of productivity, including absenteeism and reduced work performance, costs U.S. employers approximately $575 billion annually. So that's just what it's costing the employers. And I imagine that covers sick time. I couldn't even find a statistic for the amount of money, like the actual individual is losing. Wow. But if you're out for a half a day or a week, how much it's costing you.
Right. That's crazy. That's a huge number, Kayla.
Oh my God. I know. I was trying to think of what it might be. And I wasn't expecting 575 billion.
No, right? Wow. I think that just really drives the point home about why this is such an important chat we're having today.
And absolutely not all illness and, things that are included in this number are preventable for sure. Right, but a lot of it is. I can tell you, as someone who has spent over a decade in the hospital, a lot of the time the reasons people are there are preventable and could have been avoided. So pick which statistic you want to be in.
Right.
We've heard before, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. And that's it. It really is so true. And often what I hear kind of counter to that is, well, yeah, but it takes so much time and money to build up these healthy habits and I can't afford XYZ.
Right.
And I just want to let you know and bring this to your attention. Life is hard and costly. Either it's hard and costly in the beginning when you're implementing the health habits because the discipline is difficult and there's extra expense beyond what you're doing now. Or it's going to be hard and costly because your health is suffering and you have time and money being spent being ill, let me tell you. And people often think they can be the exception and cheat that statistic. But guys, it doesn't work. It works when you're like 20, you can live off of ramen. But if you're past that, Right? I know. I used to be there. I was like, I can do whatever to my body and I feel fine. And I was like,
That's right.
I'm going to have ramen and Smirnoff for dinner and sleep 2 hours and go to work. And that was just fine when I was 22. And now a decade later, there's no way in hell.
Right. So true.
As we age, our bodies become more sensitive to the abuses that they receive. So you really, if you've been thinking about it, or perhaps if you haven't, or something's been nagging in the back of your mind, this is your sign. You can't keep doing that and expect that same level of output. So today we are going to dive into some simple, actionable ways to protect your health and your wallet and keep you working for your family.
Oh, I love this. So we've already kind of talked about, Kayla's already given us this great segue into, just exactly why preventative efforts save more than just our health. Specifically around the cost of reactive healthcare. Like billing, I've often said, for those of you that may know me personally, you know that I was recently diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, and I'm working really, really hard at staying off of medication. And for me, I think this highlights where I want to spend my money. I would rather spend my money on the front side of staying healthy than spend it on medication to treat a diagnosis. So that's just one example of where...
Or the hospitalization when you're not treating it.
Exactly. And that's what I was just about to say, was that, that's just one example of choosing to spend the money up front. And that kind of is an offset versus if I don't do the preventative actions, like take a half a day off work and go to the doctor because, I have some new symptom that I'm curious about, and I just ignore the symptom. Like you said, Kayla, I very well could end up in the emergency room or an urgent care center having a lot of reactive healthcare expenses that get really expensive. Some of those tests are hundreds, if not thousands of dollars versus a doctor's appointment in a preventative measure that might be maybe even as low as a $30 copay. But even if you had to pay for the full visit, you're looking at like $150 to $175, $200 versus thousands for testing later. So I think that when we look at the expense, and then in addition, let's not forget that most of our health insurance policies today are ACA compliant. That's the Affordable Care Act. And that means that a lot of the preventative stuff is covered in full, and there's not an out-of-pocket expense. So really, some of this preventative action that we can take is more about scheduling and the expense of time, not necessarily as much in dollars, where reactive healthcare, very much dollar related, right?
Dollar and time. And
right.
I just want to kind of clearly delineate some different segments of the spectrum that we're talking about here. So when we talk about preventative care, these are the times that, guys, you should be seeing your doctor when you are feeling well. It's, for most people, it's an annual checkup and blood work. And this helps to screen and look for things before your body is even putting out the red flags and the symptoms that you're noticing. However, when we move away from prevention and we start to get into, okay, there's something going wrong, that exists on a spectrum of time. And the longer that you put off those symptoms, they don't usually go away, right? You hope that they will. And you're like, maybe I'll just take some Motrin and go to bed. And maybe that helps. And if it does, okay, great. Keep it in the back of your mind. It doesn't mean that it's disappeared. However, when something's really getting your attention more and more, that is the time to go to the doctor. Because when we catch something early, like I'll go with Nicole, you talked about your diabetes. That was picked up on a screening test, I believe, correct?
Yes. That's right. It was.
And so
An
now,
annual visit. Yes.
when she wasn't having symptoms. So the proof is in the pudding of preventative care. But when we treat a illness or disease at that early stage, guys, it takes such a small amount of intervention to course correct and get you back into a state of health. You can kind of think of this as like a green, yellow, and red zone. You want to, green is healthy and things are, functioning as they should. You really want to be seeking care, your preventative care, to keep you in the green. And then when something comes up, you need to be seeking care when you just crossed into that yellow zone.
Yeah.
What I've seen over the course of my career is a lot of people put it off. And then they, without knowing where the difference between green, yellow, and red is, they will wait to get care until they like literally can't function, can't get out of bed, can't keep food down, whatever it may be. And then it's so bad when they finally get to the ER that we have to keep them in the hospital for days and do all of these different medications and procedures to try to put their body back into some semblance of health. But it's a very long-term process at that point to recover from such a great assault on the body. And it's one of those things, you roll the dice and you gamble, but it's going to get you. And even when we talk about like COVID, for instance, we brought up the antivirals that help to treat COVID, and the same thing for the flu. They work best in the immediate beginning stage of that illness. If you wait, and you're not getting treatment during that time, I can't tell you how many, oh my gosh, COVID specifically, how many people wait to come in until like they cannot breathe and their oxygen levels are like critically low. And then we got to do all kinds of things to support their breathing and bomb them with medications to try to calm down the inflammation and support them. And then of course, everything you do has side effects. So when we're throwing large amounts of medications, you're talking now about large amounts of side effects. So guys, it's not a good time.
Right? Not fun.
So stay on top of your preventative care and go to make appointments when you're feeling sick with your primary care, or if you can't see them in a timely manner, because I know that's a challenge, go to the walk-in or the urgent care. That's going to be cheaper than the ER anyways. I've done a previous episode about the differences between when you should go to your primary urgent care or the ER. Go back to that episode if you want some more clarification around that. And I also have a handy printout available. What is it called? It's in that episode. I can't think of right now. I'll link it in the show notes, but I have a nowhere to go printout. We talked briefly about the importance of annual physicals and screenings. Just so you know, in a few weeks in January, we're going to cover an episode all about how to plan that stuff out. And if that's something you need to do, perhaps, especially if you have a couple of specialists that you see, but it's overwhelming, reach out and I do a health strategy consultation. We can get that plan put together for you. You don't have to try to figure that out alone.
I love that, Kayla. I love that. And I'm looking forward to doing that episode. I think that planning your healthcare for the year is beneficial on both of these counts. One, making sure we get the preventative stuff in and that we're planning financially. So I'm really excited about that episode.
Yeah. And the peace of mind that knows that you have a plan to keep your health journey on track and not just, well, I hope it's all right.
Right? I love this. So we've talked about staying on top of our preventative care. I am super excited to kind of bring up this next point on prioritizing sleep and stress management. So just in full transparency, this is something that I have been working on personally for the last year as well. I didn't know this though, but when we were prepping for this, I didn't realize that sleep disorders account for sit down, guys. Sleep disorders account for an additional $94 billion in costs each year inside of the healthcare system.
Mm-hmm. Nicole, how in the world does that happen?
Well, I'm going to tell you. I think how I think this happens is exactly the way that it happened to me. Is that for most of my life, I was an early bird and I felt like I could get up early and get about 18 to 20 hours of work done. And man, after 4 or 5 hours of sleep, I felt like I was rejuvenated and ready to go. And that was a fallacy. Seriously. It felt that way. And honestly, I have to even be careful today because it still feels that way on some days. And in fact, a lot of days. But what I have noticed, and I've been tracking my sleep over the last year, and I am up to averaging about 8 hours and 15 minutes. And hey, guys, if you don't know, if you have an Apple Watch or you have an Apple phone, it can monitor this for you in the health app. And that's what I'm using to track. My goal is to average a minimum of 8 hours a night of sleep, because this is what I've learned, that this insufficient sleep, even if you think you're getting, like I did, I thought I was getting enough sleep. But the thing about it is it increases your risk of a lot of chronic conditions, including diabetes, right? Obesity, cardiovascular disease, all of these chronic illnesses are related to higher medical expenses. So, for me, I'm thinking if this is just one area that you decide to work on this year, that's like, that would be good. Like if you're not averaging, enough sleep, and look, you can look that up for age. I think that they, adjust that for your age.
Yeah.
But whatever that is for you and your age bracket, like make that a priority to help with your health, because there's a direct correlation between your sleep habits and your physical health. And so then the second is the stress management. And again, again, I've always said the big fallacy that was in my mind was I work better under pressure.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Again, I don't, I'm learning that is really not.
I know. We have such a culture of like, almost like, what is the word? Oh, I just lost it. But like we put people on a pedestal for like how much stress they put themselves under and don't sleep. Like that's something that we like look at as a good thing.
Right. And it's just not true. Because again, you can go look at the statistics. Increased stress, again, increases all of these risks for chronic conditions, which ultimately translate into more and higher expenses out of pocket and time off work and time in the provider's office to get it fixed. Like you said, Kayla.
Yes. And shameless plug, we have done an episode on stress management. It was in October. Go back to that one.
Love it.
But just to go back to the sleep for a second, we know that sleep is incredibly important. In fact, in studies with lab rats deprived of sleep, they will die after a few weeks. I'm sleep deprived. I don't know how I'm still living, but anyways, I certainly feel the effects. But truth be told, we don't know all of the reasons why sleep is so important, but we do know that it is that particularly when we are in our REM cycles, that is the time when the body actually repairs itself. So I just want to make a note for a moment. If you are feeling that kind of cough, cold, flu, COVID, whatever, the seasonal ick is hitting you, stop what you're doing and sleep. Almost everybody I know tries to power through it. And I have talked about that. I did an episode about a month and a half ago about how to manage, if you're feeling the seasonal ick. Go back to that one. But one of the things that I can't preach enough is the importance of sleep. I mentioned in that episode that I get sick about 24 hours a year because the seasons change, I get the ick, And then I absolutely shut down whatever's on my calendar for that day is off of my calendar. I'll take a little Motrin for the aches and pains if I feel like I need it. And I typically will take a Benadryl to help me sleep even more than I would naturally and make sure I'm not waking up too much from all of the discomforts of the ick. But when you pair a lot of sleep with a lot of fluids, it's amazing what your body can do it supports your immune system so much to fight off that ick. And I tell you, with the exception of when I was pregnant, every time that I have gotten that bug, cough, cold, whatever it is, I don't know, flu. I don't always get tested for flu. Who knows? But whatever it is, within 24 hours, I'm feeling back to myself. So take that time to rest, give your body what it needs, and you will recover faster. Also, please don't go to work. Nobody else wants what you have, okay? I don't care if it has a name. That's the new thing since COVID. People have all these home COVID tests. They'll be like, oh, it's not COVID. Great. I don't care what it's called. I don't want it.
Right. I don't know. I like the word ick. Stay home with your ick. I do not want your ick.
Yeah, that's literally what I say. But bouncing off of the sleep, and I mentioned fluids, whether you're feeling sick or not, it is so important to eat like your life depends on it, because it does, guys. And we are going to do another episode in January where we dive deep into nutrition. And, I know I've talked about it before, but we'll do a whole dedicated episode because I realize I haven't done that. But I know, especially with this episode, we're talking about the financial aspect of these things. And that's often a thing that I hear is it's so expensive to eat healthy. Yep. And what I have to say to that is yes and no. So it is expensive to try to find healthier versions of fast food or convenience items. However, that in of itself doesn't make it more expensive to eat healthy. It's also more expensive to try to buy the pre-packaged health food items. That doesn't mean it's expensive to eat healthy. Right. What is challenging about eating healthy, even if you set the dollar signs aside, is really making the time for food preparation, because that's where you're going to make the most health impact. And even of the stuff that is readily available for purchase, most of it is still, it's either not as fresh as you would want it to be, or it's got preservatives in it, and maybe their marketing team is really good. There's a phrase called greenwashing, where they take foods. Yeah, you've heard of this, Nicole?
I barely. Go ahead.
Okay, so they'll take. And it applies to other areas of industry. It's not just food, but they'll take something that, a scientist or a nutritionist would not deem as healthy, but the packaging and the way that they sell it to you, the marketing, the commercials, makes it seem healthy. One very egregious example of this is one that really grinds my gears. Is those shakes for the elder population? What are the Boost, and what's the other one? Help me out here.
Oh gosh.
Ensure. Why do we think we should be feeding people Ensure? Have you looked at what Ensure is? It's water and corn syrup. That is nothing. There's nothing healthy. Those are the main ingredients. Water, corn syrup, and then like a bunch of different components that have been separated out from milk, but it's not actually milk.
Yeah.
And then a slew of manufactured vitamins.
Yeah. Just a side note, Ensure, if I'm not mistaken, was actually designed for people who were dependent on tube feeding.
That makes sense.
So just kind of keep that in mind too. Like now all of a sudden, like I remember Ensure, you couldn't buy it over the counter. It wasn't available to the general public. It was only for tube feeding. And so just kind of think about that. Like,
Yeah, can we go back to that? Can we make it not available anymore? RFK, is it on the list? It's got to go. It drives me nuts. But before we go too far down that rabbit hole, I want to take it back a minute. Like I said, we'll do a whole dedicated episode on nutrition. But for the person who's listening, who's like, okay, great, Kayla, but what do I do with my limited budget trying to get more health food in there? Fam, I got you. So I've got 10 tips. Again, we'll unpack these more at a later episode. But number 1, buy whole ingredients in bulk. Notice I said ingredients and not food. Apparently this was a trend that went around TikTok lately. Are you an ingredient household or a snack food household? If you open up my pantry, you do not find boxes of ready-made food, with a few exceptions, but it's mostly stuff you need to make food, like oats and beans and lentils. Beans and lentils, you guys, cheap as heck. That's my my next tip. You focus on your plant-based proteins. They are cheap. They fill you up because they're also full of fiber. They're so good for your body. So this is like beans and lentils, very easy to make. You can cook them in a crock pot. You just dump them in before you leave for work. You come home, you got them. Season them however you want. Go on Pinterest. Guys, TikTok, there's recipes for everything. Not knowing how to cook is not an excuse anymore.
Dense bean salad, like huge trend right now. Dense bean salad, super healthy, full of beans and plant and protein and fiber. Like, check it out, guys.
Yes. Yeah, that's actually, I love you say that, Nicole. That's one of my hacks. I'm a huge meal prepper. That's number 3 on my list. Meal plan and prep. And I'll put that in that episode because I have a whole strategy. It's a science. But I love salads. Yeah, I love salads, but like, who's got time to make a salad every day? Not this girl. But I make one specifically that you can make once and they keep all week in the fridge. There's no lettuce, in case you're wondering. Embrace frozen foods. Frozen foods are far cheaper than fresh because they're easier to ship. If you can get your hands on a deep freezer or you have one, you can stock up when they're on sale. A lot of times you can get them at like the BJ's, Sam's Club, Costco, those kinds of things for cheap. And also keep an eye out because those memberships are going on sale. We just got a BJ's membership for $20 for the year. And then the first time you shop, you get a $20 gift card. So it was free.
Perfect. Hey, just to piggyback off of that, don't forget, you can buy your meat in bulk as well and freeze it.
Yes.
I love doing that because you can get great deals on meat and buy up and put it in the freezer. And then you've got it ready to go.
Yeah, I eat pretty much just chicken thighs as far as like the meat department goes. And we buy it 40 pounds at a time, like from the supplier. And I think we pay $30 and then it's a whole process to like divvy it out and vacuum seal it, but
sure.
Grow your own herbs and veggies. Even if you're in a small space or in an apartment, you can get the light bars for it on Amazon for like very cheap and set up a dedicated area. And please start small. A few years ago, I was like, I'm going to plant a garden. And I planted, I don't even remember how many different vegetables. It was way more than I could keep up with. So don't do that.
Hey, and in regards to gardening, space savers, you can do potted gardens. I'm telling you, one tomato plant is more than sufficient for a family of 3, at least I can speak to, in regards to that. So even if you just do one potted tomato plant and one potted green pepper plant, for example, like start small, but you'd be surprised the produce you can get. I had a small garden at one point and literally at the house, and it was 6 by 6 square. So very small. And I literally had enough produce out of that garden that I shared with neighbors and friends and family. There was plenty to go around. So start small, you'll get it.
Yeah. And also, if resources are tight and you're in a city area, most cities have a community garden. So start to look into that and see how you can participate, because typically they also encourage sharing of the produce. So you can grow
Yes.
one thing more than what you need and share it around with everybody.
Beautiful.
If you're new to cooking, one of my suggestions is to focus on simple one pot meals. This may not be necessarily, your go-to food item right now, but it is an easy segue to get into cooking. Look up crock pot recipes. They also have like crock pot dump recipes where you can,
Yeah.
some people will do like, you get all the stuff at your grocery shopping and then you divvy it all up into like gallon size Ziplocs and freeze it. And then when you're ready to make that meal, you literally just pull it out, dump it in the crock and let it go. If you don't have a crock pot, and that's a financial concern as well, you don't have to buy them new. You can almost always find them at a thrift shop. They
Right.
literally work for decades. One of my
Yes.
friends brought hers for Thanksgiving last year. That was like, and like
Fantastic.
from the 70s, like with the little mushroom on
Oh,
it.
I love
And
it.
it
Yeah.
works like a charm. She got it at a thrift shop. Or also, if you don't want to spend anything at all, you can take a crock pot recipe and you can make it in a pot on the stove. You just obviously can't walk away from it.
Right.
Um, last couple things here. Limit your sugary drinks and snacks and look at the label, because sugar is in a lot of places it doesn't belong, because sugar is an addictive chemical to your brain. So the manufacturers have found that if they add sugar to their stuff, you're more likely to eat more of it and it makes them money. It, again,
Mhm.
things that feel like they should be illegal but aren't.
Right.
It's a new podcast I want to start.
Good, right? There's a lot of those things. Yeah,
Oh
that would be
my
good.
God. And lastly, check out the store brands and the discount stores, especially we go back to talking about ingredients instead of packaged food. A lot of times you can get the store brand ingredients and you don't notice that significant taste quality difference. As opposed to, like, I bought Great Value brand of Cinnamon Toast Crunch one time. Don't do that. But like, don't buy Cinnamon Toast Crunch anyways.
Right.
So that's the lesson there.
Right? I love it. I love it. Thanks so much, Kayla. These are great tips on how to eat like your health depends on it, because it does, right? One thing I wanted to bring up in regards to what we can do, and that is moving every day. And this,
Mm.
Kayla, because we've hung out for a while now, and that I made a very small commitment over a year ago that I was going to just start walking. And I cannot tell you from my personal experience the difference that has made in my health and in my ability to manage sleep and stress, guys. Really. Just move every day. Like, it doesn't even
Just
have to,
move.
yeah, don't, stop putting any kind of expectations around it, other than I'm going to take the time to move a little bit today.
Mhm.
Even if it's just, I'm going to walk around the block, I'm going to walk around the building. I cannot stress, because over a year ago, I could hardly walk a half a mile. I think on my app, I started using the Apple Health app just to kind of track and watch. And year over year, I'm pulling it up right now because I really want to tell you the difference that this made. In 2023, I think I was averaging about a half a mile a day.
Oh my
Okay, you
goodness.
guys, that's like nothing. That's like not moving, but that's where I started. I can't see 2022, but I'm going to guess it was even less in 2022. I'm just guessing. And as of today, right now, I'm averaging over 4 miles a day this year.
Woohoo!
Okay.
Like an 8x increase.
Right. And it started with just, I'm going to walk to the front of the apartment complex and back. That's it. And So not only do I feel better, but in 2022, I'm going to tell you that I didn't have an annual preventative exam. I had 3 doctor's appointments in 2022 because that's when I was, I think, originally diagnosed with some weird stuff that was happening. It wasn't even the diabetes yet. It was just some weird labs. And so I had to see the doctor 3 times that year. In 2024, I've seen my doctor twice. Okay. My labs are incredibly better. And my expectation is my next appointment is in January of 25. My expectation is at that point, my goal, like you guys cross your fingers, right? Because I've been working really hard, is that she's going to let me go a whole year.
Yeah,
and say, you
because
know
I
what?
think when you got diagnosed, she wanted to put you on medication straight away, right?
Yes, that's
And
right.
you were like, hold on,
Yes.
let me try to manage this myself. My mom did the same. She had the same thing she got diagnosed with high cholesterol recently. And she was like, hold on, let me see if I can get it under control. And she had those follow-ups and her numbers are looking great.
Yes. Yes. And so I say that to say that it is a process, but it can be done with just these simple things that we're talking about today. And what that's going to mean is if I can go a year without, like, back to my annual, get back on that schedule, I cut my expenses. So not only am I healthier, but I'm going to spend less money on my healthcare in 2025 because I did these things that we're talking about today. And it's crazy. Like, really,
And how
it's
much
this
better are you
simple.
feeling, Nicole?
Holy crap. Are you kidding? Like, I feel so much better. I have more energy. I have a better outlook. My stress level is lower. I've lost over 20 pounds. I don't focus on that part, but I have. I've lost over 20 pounds. And I sleep better at night. Like,
It
all of
all
these
works
things.
together.
That's right. That's right. So start small. Pick one little thing, and because we've given you some great tips. So let's see. I wanted to look at. Can't find. There it is. I just wanted to look at my notes and make sure. Yeah. So move every day. That was my big message, is move every day. It's priceless in regards to staying healthy. Oh, you know what though? There's lots of ways. This is the other thing I wanted to talk about. I typically live in a travel trailer. I'm in a sticks and bricks right now for other reasons. However, as I've been doing this, full transparency, like, I'm not spending a ton of money. Like, I don't have $100 a month gym membership. I'm not taking a bunch of classes. I'm not spending a ton of money. I'm literally walking and using my body weight for some strength training. So that my goal on that part is that we are going to go back in our travel trailer, which means I probably won't have access to a gym or free weights. So whatever I'm doing to stay healthy has had to be something that I take with me no matter where I am. And it's really working out well. And plus, it's not costing a ton of money.
Yeah.
Right?
And there's plenty of places to walk around outside, either around where you live, or you can look for state parks that are near you. Or if you're like, there's no way I'm going outside in January, I get that. Find a mall. There's like tons of there's malls all over America, and that's a huge walking circuit. Or like other large retail places. One of my favorite places to walk when the weather's bad, we have this like crazy big furniture store it's about a half hour from us. So I don't do it all the time. But like, literally, they give you a map when you walk in because it's that big.
So it's that big.
I actually, full transparency, I did this when I was like right before I went in labor with my baby. Because I just had this like urge to walk, and it was phenomenal because we walk, and then when you need a break, there's like couches everywhere. And I even sat down in one of the $6,000 massage chairs for like 20 minutes. Nice. So see if you've got big furniture stores around.
Right.
Your exercise and your massage. You probably can't do it every day. They might say something. But.
Right.
So anyways, I hope that this gets you guys kind of thinking outside the box for how that you can better support your health in ways that are affordable, accessible, and low cost, because the need to do it is clear. Not only is poor health impacting your health and your physical body, but it's putting a financial strain on you as well. And the longer you put it off, the more significant that financial and that health strain will be. So come on over to the light side with us. We don't have cookies, but
I don't know. I made some great sugar-free.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. What's that recipe
cookies
you were talking about, or that website?
Yeah, it's sugarfreemom.com, and it's great. I pulled some recipes and I've tried several so far, and they are delicious. And like I said, it's a mom that has diabetic type 1 children that has really been working to create recipes that her kids like and taste good. And I'm telling you, I made some sugar-free, gluten-free, dairy-free Christmas cookies as a trial run, because the holidays are coming up and I want to be able to have some cookies, but I want them to be healthy,
right?
And something that's not going to spike my sugar. And it's been amazing. Like, those recipes are really good. Check it out.
See, and that just case in point. There's no excuses, guys.
Right.
We're here to pull back the excuses, light a fire under your rear, because I do not want to see you going into the hospital. I do not want to see you even feeling sick and missing out. God, you don't always get the tomorrow to wake up. So when you get that, it is a gift. Live your life to the fullest quality and quantity. And to do that, we have to this is the only flesh bag that we get for this go around the sun. Right. You got to take care of it so that you can stay in it for as long as possible, as well as possible.
That's right.
So I know this was a lot of information, guys. Reach out. You don't have to figure this out on your own. We giving you a ton of ideas for the free route, but if you're overwhelmed, we're here for you. So I think that's it. That's all we got. It's all she wrote. That was 41 minutes. That's plenty. We'll see you next week, guys. Thanks for joining us here on How to Survive Healthcare. We hope you found this episode helpful and empowering.
If you're looking for even more resources and personalized support, head over to how2sh.com. That's how2sh.com. There you'll find tools, tips, and ways to connect with us directly.
Whether you need help organizing your medical information, understanding a bill, or navigating a tough healthcare decision, we're here to help.
And don't forget to subscribe to the podcast. Share it with someone who might need it, and leave us a review. It helps us reach more people just like you.
Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.